Hello everyone, welcome to Game Cave Development Licorice Lagoon concepts. So what I'm going to be doing here is some concepts for a part of the book that I haven't quite reached yet in my final draft. I'm pretty close, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself so I can kind of see what it's going to look like. Licorice Lagoon is a place where the Gold Brickers, which is the Sky Pirates Guild, sort of like it's a bunch of Sky Pirates in a certain part of town. They sort of hang their hat. They live there. So this was an initial concept I did last night, and then I went to Color Palette Effects and I extracted. Color Palette Effects is a cool website you can go to where you can upload an image and then it'll make up a little palette out of it. So this is an image I did last night on my own, right before I went to sleep, and then I pulled the colors out from that so I can kind of pick and choose what I want. But basically, I'm looking at this giant stone rocky pillar in the ocean with a sword going through it. I haven't decided that sword will be rock based. I think it'll be rock based. Like it's so old, maybe it was once a giant sword and it's not. It's going through the base, and at the top will be the actual town and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna concept some of the stuff out here digitally. To do that, I will be using this little template I made for myself called an ISO template. And what that is one second. What that is this is isometric lines I've made. I made this into a pattern. And so I'll put a link to that pattern. And I've sort of scaled it for myself. Like if I wanted to do a close-up indoor scene, this is like the level of scale. And if I want to do something, I call it ship level or map level, or really a ship level. Map level would be like, this is map level. This is really for overworld map stuff. So I'll be using ship level. And then I'm just going to go in here and sort of block in some basic what do you call that, silhouettes and stuff like that. So one second, my brain has a hard time talking about concepts as I'm concepting, so just bear with me a little bit here. Again, this is stuff I normally don't stream, but I would like to be able to have this up on here. You know, a year from now, I'll be like, hey, here's all these cool Game Cave videos when I made it. So pretty awesome. All right, so I'm just going to start with black. And just, again, this is not for like final concept paintings or final digital paintings. This is just a kind of concept. I'm actually concerned about the top of the rock base, that area. So, and this is cool because I set this up to look. This is kind of like built like a actual RPG, the ISO format. So I can sort of figure out how I want it to work. And you can just bring this stuff down. No, I'm actually thinking. Don't know about that. So because they have airships, kind of makes me think about the topography of this port. I almost want to feel gladiatorial in a way. I know the style of the buildings would be a little bit more Spanish, I think, a little more, lagoonish. from that point of view. But I'm just thinking the silhouette of the port, how that'll work out, or want it to at least. And then, of course, the scale of the buildings in relationship to the base. Probably a little too large. We can make that base a little bit larger. Yeah, warp tool is pretty good too. Kind of nestle your roughies in. Like it almost has like a crab kind of. Like these little ports are like little docks are like little claws or something, you know. I'm definitely going to need to scale it down just a little bit because I want some of the base to overhang around it. So I'll probably come back here and just kind of add a little bit of that. I want some of this to kind of hang. And then we'll go here. That's a start. Scale that down just a little bit. All right. It's a pretty good start. So just come over here and just kind of edge out some of these little blobs. You know, with this kind of stuff, you don't really want to like get too specific. Like this is the part where they do this. This is you really want to invoke an emotion, you know, a mood, sets a tone. Like, you know, this sets a tone, you know. I think sometimes people get really fixated on the specifics and, you know, and that looks really good. Like when you have this really crazy, like developed, you know, production paintings in your portfolio. But if they don't really immediately invoke an emotion, they just look pretty, you know, like they need to fit the story and everything else too. So I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit of research on like Spanish castles and stuff, and because I think like these spires are a little bit more medieval and shit. But like I said, it's at least similar to it's at least a good starting spot. And I want it to look a little sinister, just a little bit. So go ahead and save that really quick. And then I'm gonna go keep the same time of day I have in my concept painting, my first one, just for the sake of time. I'm not gonna change that too much. So I'm just gonna go ahead and actually go ahead and just cut that out. And again, I'm just sampling right off sampling right off this. Yeah, it's not anything too wild. So I'm getting this under light of like the sunset as it's in darkness. It's at nighttime. So I'm gonna want this probably a little bit more saturated down here. Then we can kind of come right over here. And I'm just gonna, with a hard brush, just really roughen some basic clouds, like not even genius stuff here. Like select inverse, put that back full screen. I don't know how curved or flat I want them to look right now. Yeah, I don't know. So sometimes with these things you gotta. Hmm. Let me look back at my ISO. Try and move a little slower. Yeah, and these are gonna be like all cloud back here. Now before I get too caught up on what that's supposed to look like, sometimes it's better to just not stress out too much about it. If I feel like it's taking too long, I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Get my light sources in first, and then I'll deal with all that other stuff later. All right. And then I'm just going to clean that up a little bit here. Just quickly clean some of that up. Fill in the gaps a little bit. All right, so it's a good start.